Have you ever been to Mexico?
Me? In Mexico?
How's it going, y'all? Rowdy Rouse back with another video. So I just finished Euphoria season 3. So let's talk about it. The first thing I want to say is I don't think it was a good season. I don't think they ended it well. I think it just kind of left me feeling empty. And I don't know if that's intentional or not, but there's going to be spoilers in this because I just want to talk about all of it. So first of all, the first thing I'll say is the first episode, the way it was shot, the way the lighting and all that stuff, it reminded me of a Western. And that tone remained consistent throughout the whole season, which that was a positive. Zendaya's acting, everybody's acting except for Sydney Sweeney. Most of the time she was on screen, except for the last episode, she was completely unbearable, just cringy, unbearable. Didn't want to hear her talk, didn't want to see her on screen just because her storyline was cringe, she was cringe. And then Jacob Elordi, his character Nate, I feel like after he got his ass beat by Fezco in season 2, it kind of just changed him. And then seeing his dad, speaking of his dad, Eric Jane, you know, he did show up in the season. It was really sad to see because you could tell that ALS was hitting him hard at that point. But Nate was not the same character he was in the last 2 seasons because he was a nasty, mean, toxic. I mean, he's still toxic, but in a different way in season 3. He was emasculated. He never stood up for himself once or defended himself once physically when he was in harm's way. And his lies and his toxicity and everything that he did for the past 3 seasons led to his character dying. Jacob Elordi got his ass kicked all season as Nate, lost body parts, whined, cried, acted like a little bitch, and then he died in a gruesome, horrible way. And I don't want to spoil that if you still want to watch it. I told you spoilers right away. But he deserved that, right? Like, was it awful to see? Yes. But was it something that I didn't think they would go that far? And that was the second to last episode, right? So that's where one character ended up. Now, the second character I've had a problem with since the second season, Jules, played by Hunter Schafer. Adore Hunter Schafer. This isn't about her acting, her portrayal, but it's about the way the character was written, which led to Hunter Schafer having to portray Jules a certain way, which is a selfish, very self-centered. And I understand that. I understand being in that place in your life where it's about you and you're trying to better yourself, but at the same time, essentially from the start to the finish, Hunter Schafer was a sexualized character who felt like her only good trait was her sexuality and what that could get her, and that's where her character ended up. She ended up in this situation where she is a side piece to a very wealthy man, and she kind of lives off of him and indulges in his fantasies and gets to live in this penthouse away from all the world's problems. And is that the best way to portray a trans character played by a trans actor? I don't think so. I mean, at least she's portrayed by a trans actor, you know, so that was another just kind of jarringly awful. And that's not even talking about the second season where her character cheated on Rue, and then while she was wearing the t-shirt of the guy that she was cheating with, who was Rue's friend, told her that she loved her multiple times after she had essentially sentenced Rue to death as far as she knew with what she did, not knowing the full connotations of flushing a briefcase full of illicit substances down the toilet. So, you know, Jules was constantly a selfish, sexualized character. Lexi is a judgmental bitch. That was her through line the whole show until the last episode. And then she kind of had a realization about, you know, people's struggle, and she was judgy, and maybe she shouldn't have been so judgy, and maybe things wouldn't have ended up that way. So, you know, I don't like Lexi. I don't like Jules. I don't like Nate. I like Maddie. Maddie is a girl boss. She gets it done. Not a girl boss in a bad way, but in like, you know, she pivoted. You know, she had her life planned out until Nate screwed her over and cheated on her with Cassie, and you know, they ended up getting married this season, and that's leading to Nate, you know, dying and not being around anymore. So Cassie's a widow. But Maddie, you know, she usually came out on top, looking the better for it, because she was, you know, constantly making the moves, making the money, making other people successful, so she could be successful because of that. So Maddie, I like Maddie. I do like Maddie. And, you know, she was working in Hollywood, and so was Lexi. So, you know, they had their storylines, they intertwined. And then Cassie, her whole storyline was she wanted flowers for her wedding that Nate couldn't afford because he's $500,000 up to the end of the show, $1 million in debt. So he couldn't afford her flowers. So she started working the OF angle and becoming a cam girl and all this stuff, and just the cringiest perverted situations Sydney Sweeney was put into. I don't like her as a person, as far as I know, Sydney Sweeney. I don't like her acting. And I didn't like her arc at all. And I don't like Cassie because she was horrible. And then they kind of expect you to just be like, oh yeah, she's alone and lonely at the end of the show. Maybe we should feel bad. I don't feel bad for her. She made that bet, right? Like she's doing just fine. She has money. She has a nice house, all this stuff. She just doesn't have the hubby that she thought because he's dead. And it was so gruesome. It really was. New characters introduced: Alamo Brown. We'll get back to him. Lori. Just scum. The people she's working with, scum. They're, you know, white supremacists. And this show took such a tonal shift all 3 seasons. I mean, at least the first and second season had the cohesiveness of being in high school, right? I mean, I may not add any clips to this. I may just talk about it because I feel like I'm going to talk about the whole season, like bit by bit. So, you know, their storyline was, you know, Rue was a mule for them because she owed Lori a bunch of money, and that's where the season picked up. They found Rue. They were using her to transport things across the border. Leads to the Western vibe. Leads to her meeting Alamo Brown, who is the overarching evil villain this season, and a character that was very important this season was Ali. You know, Rue's mentor in the sober journey and all that stuff, and he was really looking out for her. Fezco was written off as being in prison for he ended somebody, so you know, we know that we lost Angus St. Cloud, so he wasn't in the show, sadly. Very, very sad what happened. So other characters just dropped completely, like Kat, because Barbie, is her name Barbie Ferreira? She left. She didn't like the arc that they were giving her, which was just crazy girl. She went, and I'm not saying this to be offensive, but this was how they wrote her: the fat girl to the fat crazy girl. And then she herself took a personal journey and she lost a lot of weight. She was always gorgeous either way, but you know, she decided that she didn't want to come back for Euphoria, and probably rightfully so, because like I said, there's some good things about this season: the tone, the Western vibe to it, how villainous Alamo is. Like that guy was horrible but enthralling. I'm not sure who the actor was that portrayed him, but he did a fantastic job, along with the guy that played his bodyguard, who was very important throughout the entire season. And I was like, I don't want to dislike this guy. I don't want to dislike this guy. And he gave me a reason to be like, my instant. Another thing, this was very telegraphed the whole season. You kind of knew where things were going. And you notice how I haven't talked about Rue yet, right? We're getting there. Other than, you know, bits and pieces here or there. I'm trying to get through all the characters before I really dig into Rue and her journey and how it ended. Did I miss anybody? I don't think I did. Okay, so we're going to talk about Rue's journey and what happened. So she starts off, beginning of the season, kind of optimistic. She's found religion by meeting this family that was living the perfect life as far as she can see, because you know, it's only skin deep when it comes to religion and what it does for you, and it's about how you practice it. If you use whatever you believe in for good, all the better to you. But a lot of people use it to control their families or be controlled by other, you know. So take that at face value. This season felt very preachy, and I don't understand that aspect of it. I know we've always had characters like Ali and, you know, other trying to be like the voice in Rue's shoulder saying, hey, maybe listen to God and all that stuff. So there's a lot of that in this season. There's a lot of religious undertone. There's a lot of the sense of forgiveness, redemption, meeting someone to be in the right place. And she believes that she met this person, Alamo, through God, which is crazy because this man is literally the devil. And he helps her get away from the situation with Lori. And this ingrains her to a bigger problem where she is working with the DEA because they caught her carrying a bunch of illicit substances. And so she's informing on these very dangerous people, and they want Lori. And by golly, they get Lori by the end of the season. I just watched this. It's fresh on my mind. You know, she, out of all of her groups, she's the only one that ends up being gone because she takes her own life. She says, I can't go to prison. And then, I don't want to spoil everything, but this is a spoiler review because I want to talk about all of it. I want to process it. So Rue is out of that situation. She goes back to Alamo, and there's been, I'm not trying to break down the whole season, but I'm trying to get to the points that I'm trying to make. She's been doing really well. She hasn't relapsed. She's just California sober, as it were, you know, weed and alcohol. And, you know, she's not really trying to use, and she's doing a great job. And Alamo, she's beat up at this point. She's in pain. She's been dragged, punched, just put through hell this whole season. And she's tired and she's broken. And Alamo knows through a series of events that Rue was informing. Like, I thought maybe he kind of was like, oh no. He gives her a bottle of pills. And they're Percocets, right? So it's for pain, he says, just for pain. Don't go taking the whole thing. And she goes back to Ali. He says, take a week off. He gives her a bag full of money, and you think maybe she'll get out of this okay, right? So she goes back to Ali's house, and she's listening to the Bible on tape, right? She's trying her best to better herself, and she takes just one for the pain. And of course it's laced with the drug that is very dangerous, and you do the wrong amount, even a little bit, and you know, she had this beautiful dream where Fez got out and she was going to pick him up because she knew where he was going, and she gets home and her mom's there and her dad's there, and I telegraphed all this. I was like, because this dream sequence started with Ali getting out of bed and seeing she was up, and I was like, there's no way this. So Rue passed away, and this is why, one of the reasons, like, the season was terrible. Just a lot of it was trash, but the dramatic parts, the parts with Rue, Zendaya was so good in this role, because almost everyone in the show is bad and did bad things, but Rue wanted to do better than she was trying, and it didn't really matter because she got given some lace because he wanted that to happen. He knew that she would at least take one, if not the whole bottle, right? So she died on Ali's couch, and it broke him. And essentially the last portion of the episode is showing you where the girls left off. Jules, Lexi, Maddie, Cassie. And there's really no closure. You don't feel closure with this. You really don't. The only closure that we get is Ali goes to an AA meeting a couple months later. He's like, you know, all of this that I've been doing, I'm trying to help kids. I put my heart and soul into it, and it never works. He's got this book and he writes their names, and that he wanted that to be the last one he wrote because he's tired. I get it. So he knows about Alamo. Rue told him, and he goes, and it proceeds from there as you would think. Very bloody, very tense. And there's a lot of blood and tension this season, and it just felt skeevy. It felt it felt, I know that that's what Rue's fate would be, because that's this kind of show. There's no reward in this show. There was never really any good feelings from this show, so I don't know what kept me so enthralled. Mostly the hope that Rue would come out of it okay, just because I think Zendaya did such a good job, and like all the actors did such, except for Sydney Sweeney. But yeah, it wasn't a good season. Honestly, it wasn't a good show. The tone that the first season had was lost when I think they lost just like a big part of the production. I forget her name, but she was like the one that had the glowy neon aesthetic, the soft, you know, filtered kind of hazy looking show was kind of lost after the first season, and it just kind of kept getting worse and worse. It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. So yeah, this isn't a positive review. I know I'm crying, but that's because I liked Rue. She was the one I wanted to see get some semblance of peace, and I think she got it in the end with the silence that comes with that, with the final, you know, hey, no more fighting, no more struggling. But it's not fair. It's not fair to the viewers. It's not fair to, it's just not a good show. So that's my review of Euphoria season 3. Pretty much the show as a whole, just TV that's bad, but you still want to see if it gets better or if it turns out okay, and usually never does. So yeah, like, subscribe, comment, become a channel member, r/figurefanatics, rowdy_riles on Instagram. Keep your head up, stay brave, be kind to local LGBTQ community. If you're protesting, be extra super duper safe. I love y'all. I'll see you next time, and bye-bye.
Man, I miss high school.
I don't.
Just wait 1 minute. I'm watching this new Rowdy Riles video, and it's really awesome. I don't want to miss it.
It's like this chick that reviews action figures, and it's really freaking cool.
Yes, I think they saw some videos. There's some really good contents out there, you know?
She reviews the ponies and stuff because you knows I love ponies.
She doesn't review ponies. It's freaking cool stuff, Toki.